for simplicity. There's a few ways to detect collision. There are a few predefined functions like collision enter, on collision exit, for example. So when you exit the collision or when you enter the collision, if you're colliding with something, you can also do that. But we're gonna use triggers, since collisions are are not really working that well when the stick will collide with the ground and the player is not gonna work that well. So in my opinion, it's best to use trigger for this. But the problem with that is if you make this a trigger, it's not gonna use this for collision detection with the ground, for example, or the player. It's just gonna it's not gonna do the physics collision, so it's gonna just fall through the floor when you play it. So we can't make this a trigger. We actually have to add like an empty object inside the stick and add trigger to that, if that makes sense. So we're just gonna create empty, and empty is just this empty object is just literally invisible point in the space. Nothing special about this yet. And we're just gonna parent it to the stick. So now whenever a stick moves, this object moves, and as you can see, it's to the left of the stick. So we're just gonna make it at 0, 0, 0, so it's at the center of the stick. And what we're going to do is we're going to add component physics box collider. Now here's the box collider, this empty object. And since it's not a trigger, it's gonna be, see, it's flying, it's using this box collider that's parented to the as collision. So therefore, we're gonna make it a trigger. And now obviously this is ignored. But let's make this box collider smaller. That's what will detect the collision between the player and the stick. So we don't want it to be as big. So you pick it up when we actually go inside. So let's make it slightly bigger than the stick, actual stick, for example. Okay, let's keep it like this, I guess. So it's around the same size. And since it's a trigger, it's gonna ignore the physics collision with physics objects. And this one is not a trigger, so it's gonna use. So it's exactly the same. So it's exactly the same thing at the moment, pretty much, except it has another object parented to it that has a trigger collider. And let's rename it to trigger stick. Alright, so going back to the player move script, we're gonna use another predefined function on trigger enter now. So void on trigger enter. Make sure that this is case sensitive, so make sure the O is capital, T is capital, and E is capital, and everything else is lowercase. And it gets collider, and let's just name it call, short for collider. So now we want to see what you collided with. So we're just gonna print call that name. So we're gonna print the name of the collider. This is what you collided with. So let's play it. And as you can see, it says trigger stick. We collided with the trigger stick. We didn't collide with stick, but trigger stick. Since this has the trigger, so make sure this is ticked. Otherwise, it's not gonna read the collision. And make sure this is not ticked on the stick. So since it's a trigger, on trigger enter reads the collision between the player and the stick now. So before you do anything to the stick, you want to make sure you're colliding with stick. What if something else has a collider on the trigger and you collide with it? You don't want to, assume it. You don't want to assume it's a stick. You want to make sure it's a stick. So if call that name is stick. Actually, it's called trigger stick. Trigger stick. So if you collide with trigger stick, then you do all these things. So what we want to do is we want to remove it from existence. So it doesn't, we're gonna call another function that will destroy this object, which is called destroy. Open bracket, and then you pass in the object you want to destroy. So let's say we want to destroy call, what we collided with, and that's gonna be wrong because look at this while I do this. If I collide it with it, call is the collider. You want to destroy the object. So call that game object. Now, if you play it, so we would be assuming that it would destroy the stick, but actually that's wrong. When you collide with it, it will actually, as you saw, it destroys the trigger stick because that's what you collided with. So we don't even see if anything happened here, but if you watch here, it destroys the trigger stick. And you don't want to destroy trigger stick, you want to actually destroy the parent of the trigger stick, which is the stick. So if you hit trigger stick, you want to destroy the parent. So you do call that transform that parent dot game object. So destroy the parent game object. So now when you walk into it, it will destroy the parent, as you can see. So it looks like you picked it up, but actually you just remove it at all. Alright, so we picked the stick up. Now we want to create another one. We want to dynamically create it with code. To do that, you want to make the stick a prefab. Let's control save just to save the scene. To do that, let's create another folder called prefabs. And I'm gonna explain what prefabs are now. To make this a prefab, you just drag it inside the folder here. And as you can see, now it's blue, so it means it's a prefab. If you ever used Flash before, it's basically like a symbol in Flash. It's basically object saved in your assets, and now you can just drag it inside here and reuse it as many times as you want. Oops, I click this so you can see. It has all these things, trigger stick, and has the script attached to it. No, the sticker doesn't. I mean, it has the rigid body and all this we set up for this. So actually now when you when you play it, oh, it's because they fell through the floor because they were actually slightly into the floor, as you can see. So you kind of want to move them above the floor, because if objects are inside each other, they might go through each other. Okay, so now as you can see, I can just destroy all of them because all of them have names, trigger sticks. So it's easy way to create a lot of objects, the same objects you already made. So now we can destroy the stick actually. And we want to create a stick. To do that, we're gonna create another script. Just you could do it inside the player move, but I want to show you how to have two scripts talking to each other. So we want to create dynamically this stick randomly in this area. So we're just gonna create a script that will do that. So create C# and stick spawner, for example. Right. So obviously the script will not run unless it's attached to something. And what we're gonna do is you can attach it to any object pretty much here, but maybe it would make sense to just create an empty object, and let's call it, for example, level manager, and let's just drag stick spawner inside level manager. So level manager will exist when the game begins, so obviously start will run then and all that. So we just kind of have this level manager, this invisible point that will have this script. I could attach it to the camera as well. It doesn't really matter. The reason I wouldn't attach it to the player, just in case in future you want player to die, for example, and then if you destroy the player, obviously the level manager will be destroyed. I mean the stick spawner as well, so maybe it's not the best way to have stick spawner attached to the player, for example. Uh, so we have this stick spawner, so let's run it again. So now obviously, if you check here, asset scripts, we have two scripts, so player and stick spawner, player move and stick spawner. What we're gonna do, we're not gonna use update function. We're gonna create another function called spawn stick, which will obviously spawn a stick, which is our own function. And we want to know, first we want to get the object we want to spawn. To do that, make public game object stick. So now this game object will be the stick. To make it the stick we want to spawn, to make it this prefab, this game object, what you want to do is when you click on level manager, now you will see once you make something public, like here, and not something, I mean, once you make a variable public, game object integer, then you can modify its value here. For example, you could change, so you can have multiple scripts to attach to something, and for example, have integer called speed, and then change that speed, and have different speed per different object without changing any code. So you just change values here. So here it wants to know what game object we want to use. You can click on here and pick stick, or you can just go to prefab folder and just drag the stick we made. So now here, this stick is actually this. So that's how we'll know what we want to spawn. We want to spawn this. To create this stick, this object now, we want to run a function called instantiate. As you can see, instantiate, open brackets, and there's a few overloads. We're gonna use second one. First, it wants the object we want to create. Well, obviously, we want to create stick, comma. It wants the position of the stick. For now, let's just spawn it at 0, 0, 0. New vector 3 0.0f 0.0f 0.0f, comma, and wants the quaternion rotation. Just type in quaternion.identity. Okay. So that creates the stick. That will create it at this position when this function runs. And obviously this function never runs because we never run it yet. So we're just gonna run it on start. Oops, spawn stick, and we just run it on start. And start runs when whatever the script is attached to whatever the script is attached to, and it's attached to level manager, which is created when the game starts. So it will spawn the stick when the game starts. Let's play it. And actually the stick appeared on top of me, so I picked it up straight away. Let's move the player a little bit to the right. Okay, so as you saw, the stick actually fell to the ground because 0, 0, 0 is slightly inside the stick, so I mean the ground. So let's move it on Y a little bit higher, just to show you guys. Actually works. So see, it spawns now a little bit higher and falls down the ground. Before it spawned inside the ground, so it fell through the ground. Okay, so as you can see, we spawn the stick on the start and we pick it up. Now, if you want to spawn randomly within this area, so each time it's like randomly stick spawns here or here or here, we know it should be random. To do that, you want to use the random function, but first we want to know the range within you want to the range from what you want the stick to spawn. So this is roughly what camera sees. And we can use the player to define the range. So this is 0, 0, 0, and if we move the player and look at the X, we want the players, the sticks probably to stop spawning at around here, which is -8. So that would be +8, and on Z we want to stop it at -4 to around 6. Let me write that down quickly. -8 to 8 and -4 to 6. Okay, let me explain this. So when the sticks to spawn within like this area which I just specified. So -8 on X to here. Now when we go to the new vector 3, as I said, on X you want to spawn from -8 to 8. We're gonna use random that range. Then it wants minimum and maximum. And obviously -8, comma 8. So now it will generate the values between -8 to 8. But there are actually two problems with this, what I wrote here. First problem is that I passed in integers. And it has two overloads, integers and floats, as you can see. And since I made them integers, it's actually just gonna make random integer value, meaning that it's gonna be like -8, -5, 6. And if I would make it floats, it will actually make it, for example, 3.357, 5.58. It's gonna be much more variant randomness in this, so make sure you make those floats. The second problem with this is it actually won't go till 8. It will stop at 8. So if you would make it 9, if actually that's fine now since we made it floats. It will stop at 7.999. It will never hit 8, by the way. So if you made this integers, it will stop at 7. And obviously you want to go to 8, so you would have to make it 9, not 8. But with floats it's fine. With 7.9 is fine. So that's on X. On Y, we always wanted it to be on around 1 height, so it doesn't fall to the floor, it doesn't appear in the sky and suddenly falls like slightly over the ground. That's fine. And on Z, as I said, we want from -4 to 6. So random dot range -1.0f to 6.0f. All right. So now Control S to save it. Alt Tab. Let's play it. See what happens. So stick appeared here, as you can see. Play it again. Stick appeared here again. Okay, that was very lucky that it appeared 3 times in the same place, but as you can see, it randomly spawns within this area. As you can see, it's completely random. See? So now we want to spawn the stick once we pick it up. We want to create another one. So obviously, once we pick up one, it creates another one, and it's like infinite like this. So obviously, you want to run this function, a spawn stick function, once you pick it up. So to do that, first we want to find the level manager. Then we want to access the script, and then run the spawn stick function. So let's find. So we need the level manager object. We can use game object and make sure the G in game object is capital. Dot find, and that finds the game object in the scene, and its level manager. Make sure it's the same spell like here, wherever this script is attached to, stick spawner. Now I want to access. So now we have this object, and I want to access one of the components which is stick spawner script. So dot get component. You want to do less than simple stick spawner. So that's the name of the script. Open close. Then you want to dot that, and then you want to write spawn stick. But this problem, there's no matches, and it's because this function you want to access is private. So what you want to do is you want to make it public. So now you can access it from another script. Dot spawn stick open bracket close, since it's a function, and now to run now to run this function when you pick up the stick, so it will spawn another stick at a random position. So let's play. So we pick it up. See, it appeared right over there. It appeared another one, and so on, and it goes forever now. Alright, so we want to do a few more things. We want to show the score you have gained during the game, and we also want to do sound. So let's do score first. So we can do it inside the player moves function. Oops. We're just gonna create simple integer score and make it 0. And we're gonna add it every time you pick up by 1. So plus plus, increment it by 1. The score. So when you pick it up, you increment the score by 1. And now you want to display it. To do that, we need to run a function called void on GUI, and make sure it's case sensitive, so make sure that O is capitalized and GUI is as well, and N is not. Alright, so before we display it with GUI, we need to have the GUI skin. To do that, we need to create one here, public GUI skin, and let's just call it game skin, for example. And if you remember, whenever you make something public, it will appear here. And now we want the skin. So let's create another folder here called GUI. Inside here, create GUI skin. Let's call it game skin as well. It doesn't have to be called game skin. Actually misspelled, but okay. So we have game. Oh, I misspelled it again. Game skin. Here you can obviously drag, like you can go to website, download fonts, drag them here, then add them, change them here. So you can change the font, you can change the colors. What we're gonna go is we're gonna create a label. So go to label, and under normal, you can change the color. Let's just make it red. So the text will be red for labels. Here you can change the font size as well, so you can increase or decrease the font size. Okay, so let's go down here. Oh, let's go back actually. Let's click on the player again and drag that game skin here. And actually, if you do this arrow key, it's not gonna find the skin at all. So that's why you have to go to the folder and drag the game skin inside, and now it's gonna work. So now inside the game skin, first, before you do anything, you need to actually set the game skin. Unity suggests to do it this way. If GUI.skin equals skin is not equals to game skin GUI dot skin is equal to game skin. Oops. Okay. You always need that silly if statement here. Okay, now you can do the label. To do that, type in GUI dot label, open bracket. Now wants to know the position, and afterwards wants to know the content. The position is the new rect, and now it wants to know the X position. So on from the left of the screen, how much it wants to know the X position, the Y position, the width of the label, and the height of the label. So what we want to do, actually, I think the best way to display the label would be at the top of the screen, in the middle, in the center of the screen. So obviously you would need to get the center. Depending on the resolution, it will be always different. For example, if it's 600 by 400, the resolution, obviously the center will be 300. But the problem with that is, what if you pay in 1080p, 1920 would be, different value. So to do that, you want to use screen dot width, and that gets you the resolution, the width resolution of the screen, and you simply divide by 2 and make it 2.0f. So now we're on the center. The comma, now it wants the height, so we're just gonna do screen.height, and we're gonna multiply it by 0.1f. So the reason 0.1f is because we're just simply going to move it down by 10% of the screen. And for height and width of the label, let's do 200 by 50, and then close it, comma. Now it wants the content, and the content is the score. So actually, let's make a string score. It's probably hard to see for you guys. Let me move it here. Okay, score. So we're just gonna make a string score like this, and then we're gonna add the score, the integer we increase, do dot to string. So we're just gonna say score, and then we display the score, and we convert it to string, so we can just add them together, the integer and string. So it's gonna be score and the current score, the actual score. And obviously we need semicolon at the end. Yeah. Let's see what happens. I might have something wrong, but that should technically work. There you go. So as you can see, there's score 0, and once I pick this up, it increases to 1. I pick this up, increases to 2, 3, and so on. As you can see, it's quite small. You can increase it based on screen width or something, or you can just simply size here, make it like 100. Might be a bit too big now, but let's see. Okay, it's too big. Actually, you can do it runtime. Probably easier. 30, 40, 50. 50 is too big. 45. Okay, let's choose this middle center and 45. Okay, so middle center, 45. And when you play it, as you can see, it's not exactly at the center. That's because it starts from this point. It doesn't draw from the middle. So it's actually on the center, but starts drawing from the center. If you want it to be on actual center, you actually have to subtract half of the width from here. And obviously this is 200. So if we subtract 100, now let's make it F, so we keep constant with floats. Now it's gonna be actually on the center. There you go. Alright, so we have the score, and let's add the music now, and the sound effect when you pick up the object. Let's do the sound sound effect first. So we're gonna create a folder called sound. I'm gonna put any sound effects or music inside this folder. I would suggest using this website, freesound.org. You can search for sounds, music. Everything is royalty free here, so you don't have to worry about copyright. You can use it in your final games, everything. It's a great website for music and sound effects. So we're just gonna just 8-bit. I searched for 8-bit coin before. Yeah, let's just use 8-bit coin for example. I don't know if you guys can hear, it was quite loud. So I'm going to download this coin sound. Obviously, you need to create an account for this. In order to be able to download, it is free to download to create an account. And I'm going to add this website to the description as well. It's a really good website. So now I'm just gonna simply download this coin sound, and we're gonna use it for picking up. So now back to Unity, right click, import new asset. I'll put this sound in the desktop. So as you can see, now I have the sound. If you click here, you can hear it. And you can untick this to make it 2D sound. We're gonna just leave it 3D sound. It's fine. And what we're gonna do is, well, you might think we should attach the sound to the stick because the stick will make the sound when you pick it up. But actually, we're going to attach it to the player. And the reason is because once you destroy the stick, it will destroy the sound with it. So you will not hear that sound at all if you would attach it to the stick, since it's straight away destroyed and it will not finish once it starts playing sound, it's not gonna finish it because straight away the stick is destroyed with the sound. So the stick, we want the sound to be attached to the player, so the player will play that sound when he picks up the stick. So going back to player move, we're gonna add the sound to the player. To do that, we're gonna use a thing called audio clip. Make sure you make it public, and let's say pick up sound, and that will store the sound inside our Collison enter. You want to play the sound, so you're gonna do audio with lowercase dot play one shot, open brackets, and what's the clip, so just pick up sound, and that will play the sound. Obviously now since you made it public, you need to set it up inside the player move. Here it should appear any second. There you go. It takes a while once you all tap back in and reach the code, so we can just simply drag it here, the sound, and now obviously the pickup sound is this sound, and that should play the sound once we pick it up. And as you can see, there's an error. And why is it giving us error? Missing component audio source. Ah, yes. I completely forgot. My bad. If you go to site the player, it needs to have this audio source of this sound as well. You need to add component, audio source. Here you choose the clip. You can click on either this or drag here, this sound. Just gonna click here, add it here. You don't want to play on awake. You don't want. If you want, you can loop it, so it's when or play it on awake. We don't want that, and that's it. You can just hide it now. So make sure this audio source with this clip is attached to is in the same place where you play the sound, or it's not gonna work. It's gonna give you error. So let's go here. As you can see, as you can hear, the sound plays when you pick it up. Now let's do the music, which is actually much simpler. You don't even have to have a single line of code to play music. I actually have already a track made by my really good friend Adam Greenlee. Uh, he makes music for my games. He's a really good musician, and he made really good music for some of my games. We're gonna use one of his songs he recently did for me for Sledge Rift. I don't know if you heard of it. It's Oculus Rift game I made. That you move the sled with your head. Uh, it's pretty fun. So we're gonna use this song, this music piece he made for as an example. You can just download one for free sounds. I'm sure there's plenty of tracks. I'm just gonna use this one. You can check his page. He has a YouTube channel as well with music. I recommend checking it out. I'll put it in the description as well, just in case you want to check more of his music. Um, and yeah, so that's the track. What you want to do is for the music, you probably want it to be 2D sound, so untick this. And you can compress it so it's smaller. As you can see, it's 9 megabytes. So make your game 9 megabytes bigger. So you can compress it to 1 megabyte. It's not gonna be as good quality, but it will make your game 8 megabytes smaller if you have quite big track. I'm just gonna go back to what it was before. Can remember something like this. I don't know. Just apply it. So we just make sure you untick this for the music, so it's 2D sound. So it's just gonna play it normally. If you're to the left of it, it does. It's to the left of the object that the music is applied. It's not gonna play it on the left side of the speakers. It's just gonna play it normally. All right. So now we have the song. We want to play it. So I would suggest adding it to Level Manager since it always exists and it is created when the game is created. So inside here, you're gonna do add component audio source. There you go. And obviously for here, you want to click here and choose the song. As you can see, it says it's 2D, so make sure it's 2D. And you want to play it on awake. So when this object is created, you want to start playing it and you want to loop it as well. Here you can change volume, so if it's louder or not loud, you probably want to reduce the volume a little bit so the coin pickup sound is louder than the music so you can actually hear it. And yeah, so let's play it and let's see. So as you can see, that's the music. Compiling. To compile, you go to build file, build settings. Here you can compile it for different platforms, not for all of them obviously. If you can buy the license if you want for different things, but most of it is free. Even Android, you can compile it for Android and then use it on Android phone if you want. So we're gonna compile it for Windows. You can obviously compile it for Mac, Linux, 64-bit or 36. 32, 64-bit or 32. So we're just gonna choose Windows since I'm using Windows for this, and we're gonna build. And to desktop, I'm just gonna create new folder. Game. Let's name it Pickin Sticks. Pickin Sticks. Pickin Sticks. And we're gonna build it. Alright, so with build. So as you can see, it creates the .exe and the data folder. Double click on the exe to start it off. So this is what you will give to your the people who want to play your game. Just build version of this game. Okay, there it is. So here you will be able to change the resolution. Let's leave it as this. Let's make it windows so you can see it. You can change the graphics quality, but the good part is in input. As you can see, there's the keys we created before. Go left, go right. So we can change them to, for example, arrow keys or something. So for example, I'm gonna add arrow key support to this. So now I can control it with arrow keys without changing any code. So that's the advantage of the get button function we used instead of get key as well. So we're just gonna play it, and as you can see, you need the logo and the game starts. And now we can control with arrow keys as well. Play. Thanks for watching, and I hope you learned something about Unity. If you have any suggestions for tutorials, let me know. If you learned something and you want to see more, subscribe. If you think the tutorial was good, please give it a like, and if you thought it was bad, you can dislike it if you want as well. Also, be sure to check out my Facebook page if you want to be updated on tutorials, any tutorials I make, and if you want to be updated on any tutorials I make and any other thing I'm going to be posting. Also, if you have any programming questions, probably the fastest way you will get a response from me is through the Facebook fan page. So yeah, be sure to give it a go and like the Facebook page as well.